This episode of Beer Geeks is brought to you by August Shell Brewing Company. The legend continues, one bottle at a time.
If you're a fan of craft beer living in Minnesota, you're experiencing an ever-increasing amount of choices for your drinking and dining pleasure. In this episode, we visit an urban diner cooking up some solid breakfast items paired up with great craft beer. Plus, we gather at the corner of an award-winning brew pub and have its head brewer take us for a tour of its basement secrets. That's all right here on this episode of Beer Geeks. Minneapolis craft beer drinkers know when hunger strikes to search out their closest Blue Plate restaurant group eatery. And in this hip uptown neighborhood, beer and food come together at The Lowry.
The beer is excellent. I like the selection.
I think it's great. I've been here like probably 7 or 8 times by now. It's very welcoming, like a nice kind of community gathering place.
With a menu featuring a unique twist for the late rising beer lover.
There's nothing like coming in here for a late breakfast or an early lunch, having a beer with something on the breakfast menu.
A breakfast menu complementing beer.
You could have breakfast here late night as well, which breakfast for dinner is probably the best thing in the world. You know, like who doesn't want to sit down and have an awesome beer and some banana waffles?
With the kind of urban chic comfort food that we serve here, especially with the breakfast side, stuff like meatloaf hash, stuff like the great French toast we have, that can really pair well with just about anything that we've got on the menu in terms of craft beer.
Blue Plate is not only known for their breakfast, but their craft beer selection as well. And you guys have taken that to the nth degree here in Uptown.
We got a good rotating tap selection.
We have you to thank for the craft beer menu here, is that right?
Yep. I am the person they put in charge of starting our program here. I worked hand in hand with Craig Hassel from Groveland Tap, who's ultimately in charge of our beer program. Okay. I worked with him for a couple months developing this and working with our vendors. I have a passion for craft beer that really started about 2 years ago when I moved here. If somebody wants to try something different, I want to make sure to have a broad selection of things and maybe some new stuff that they've never tried, and they can say, ew, gross, not for me, but at least they're broadening their horizons a little bit.
For sure. And so tell us about like your philosophy in bringing beer to this specific location here in Uptown Minneapolis.
Why not buy from people that live right in our neighborhood? And a lot of these brewers are. You know, Harriet, Jason is working really hard right in that Longfellow area to get his business going, and I'd love to be able to buy his product knowing that it's a good product and comparable with the things that I can buy from other countries. Gotta support people that are in our neighborhoods.
And there's no shortage of neighborhood taps at the Lowry.
I'm drinking the Grain Belt Northeast because it's the local brew and you have to support the hometown.
It's great. I like heavier, darker beers, so it's perfect. And it really mixes well with the chilaquiles.
Everyone from 21-year-olds to 70-year-olds, they get excited about what different craft beers, especially locally made beers. And I think with local craft, it's getting really exciting because there's a lot of good beer coming out of Minneapolis and the surrounding area. We've got Harriet Brewing, Fulton Brewing are really kind of coming into their own. Lift Bridge out of Stillwater. You know, there's a lot of good stuff coming out of this area, and I think it's only going to get better.
It takes a well-trained staff to be able to take somebody from a light domestic to push them along to that craft beer and get them to start trying different beers. And I think that you guys do a really great job of training your staff.
Sure, we actually spent 2 sessions of 4 hours each with the entire opening staff.
Same characteristics, but it's nice because it's an American-made beer. I always like pushing those. So if you want to try a sample of that, I'd be more than happy to.
So when your server is like, oh, you have to try this, you're not going to say no. And samples are samples, and that's what they're there for. So if somebody offers you something, try it.
When we come back, it's into the kitchen with Chef Dustin to see what the Lowry has to offer for morning cravings and hunger pangs well into the night.
You want to do one?
I'll try. Yeah.
I've seen people get stitches from doing these.
At the Lowry in Uptown Minneapolis, the variety of craft beer seems never ending. So when you're hungry as well as thirsty, it's time to check out the menu. You guys are really nailing everything across the board. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night, appetizers, everything. What is the philosophy behind the menu?
Creative comfort food, or comfort food with a twist. We really try to have those things that you would come home and make for yourself when you're, maybe having a bad day, some waffles, things like that, but just knocking it out of the park with some really great chef-driven food, some ingredients that you probably wouldn't have at home, and you definitely wouldn't have the time to make everything from scratch the way that we're doing it.
That home-cooked, made-from-scratch food is the brainchild of Lowry chef Dustin Palanch, a guy keeping all day in mind when he writes the menu. Hot food! What are we cooking today?
Today we're going to do chilaquiles, which is a Southwestern-inspired dish, really well with beer.
Not only does that sound really good with beer, that sounds really good after a night of beer.
Yeah, there's plenty of fat there to cut it. On the lighter side, a little bit sweeter, we're going to do peanut butter waffle. And then at the end of it, we're going to pop some oysters with our shooters back. So.
Never had chilaquiles before, and this is very good.
So a lot of our viewers are not going to know what chilaquiles are, but they're going to know what the ingredients in them is.
Right. So, usually it came from the line cooks and the people inside of the kitchen finding something that they wanted to put on top of everything.
Those are always the best dishes.
Right. So I mean, on ours we've got our house-made hash browns, and then inside of here we've got chili powder, cumin, chorizo, tortillas, and then we're gonna take a spicy ancho sauce. We're gonna throw that all. We're gonna take it and mix it all in. The sauce is gonna soften up the tortillas enough so that they still have a texture, but they're not overly crunchy as you go through and eat.
Perfect.
Then we make a black bean puree, a little bit of extra lubrication to help the dish go down a little bit easier.
If beer wasn't enough.
If beer wasn't enough, it's definitely going to help out a hangover. Our eggs on top of it. To finish the dish off with a little bit of pico de gallo. It's going to go on top. Queso fresco. And then we're going to take cilantro lime sour cream.
Oh, wow.
Dress the top of it with that. And then fresh cilantro.
Gotta have fresh cilantro in a Mexican dish.
Just to garnish it off and give it that green pop of color at the top of it. And that's it. And that's going out to eat.
I'm having some sort of delicious waffle with peanut butter and whipped cream that must be homemade because it tastes too good to be store-bought.
Peanut butter curried waffles. Starting off with a little creamy, not chunky.
No, we do chunky here. Definitely.
Do you do chunky?
Chunky peanut butter, so.
Gives it that extra crunch.
Gives it a little bit of crunch, a little more texture to it, because we're going to take a little bit of vanilla cream sauce to go right on top.
These are the candied peanuts?
These are the candy curried peanuts, and these are going to finish the dish off on top as well.
Breakfast is key at the Lowry, but they're whipping out food for all hours.
We're open from 6:30 in the morning till 2 in the morning, so you can kind of drop in whenever you want.
Having a big late night presence, you guys probably do a lot of tapas style, small plates, appetizers. Run us through that menu.
Chicken wings.
Gotta have wings.
Gotta have wings.
These are very good. Nice and crispy.
Poutines. We do jalapeno cheese curds with blueberry ketchup, deviled eggs.
Mom, if you're watching, these aren't as good as yours. But if you're not watching, they're excellent. I love them.
With oceanfront miles away, the oysters are a big draw. All right, Chef, how many different oysters do you guys offer here?
We tend to keep 4 different varieties on hands at all time. We'll always have a Blue Point, and the Blue Point is our East Coast oyster. And then we try to get varying at least 1 West Coast and 2 other East Coast.
So there's no beef between them? East Coast and West Coast?
Not in my kitchen.
Okay. The old rap joke. Off the top of my head, I can think of maybe 2 or 3 Twin Cities restaurants, seafood restaurants, that do oysters, and you guys are known for breakfast.
Yeah.
And you're doing more oysters than all of them combined. That's amazing. But what you have that they don't is you have a great craft beer selection.
Right.
So that you can pair these oysters with craft beer, you can have them with craft beer, heck, you can make them with craft beer.
And if you come in and you look at the beer menu, there's a notification where the beers that are supposed to go with oysters are paired well with. So
that's really cool.
We've gone into pairing different beers with the oysters as well.
And that's why we're here. That's why the beer geeks came here, because for the beer geeks that come into this restaurant, I mean, you guys have it already mapped out for them. So it's really, really accessible. I think that's awesome. All right. Well, let's take a knife and let's shuck these shuckers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you find any pearls in there, my girlfriend would really like a necklace. And now, I've stirred mash before, and that was hard, but this looks like a workout.
It can get difficult, yeah. Some of them are really, really difficult to open. You want to do one?
I'll try. Yeah.
I've seen people get stitches from doing these.
Am I insured with Beer Geeks?
You just want to go as hard as you can. Once you feel it go in.
Holy crap.
Now, if you think that you're in there, twist it as hard as you can. Hence the reason people get stitches from an oyster knife right there.
Yeah. Wow.
So we'll be doing this. Last night we sold 200 oysters on the hatch.
Look at that. Hey, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all. Yeah, you need to take it and release it from the bottom and get the abductor muscle.
Cool. Right on top of there. I'm gonna call that beginner's luck, and I'm gonna put that knife down, and I'm leaving the rest to you.
Perfect.
Got the 6 oysters on there.
Right.
Now it's time for the garnish and the accoutrement.
A house-made cocktail sauce.
Perfect.
And then we give it a grilled lemon to go with it as well.
Perfect.
The food is terrific. The oysters are fantastic. Obviously, they're gone.
Gabby, thank you so much for having the Beer Geeks here. It looks like there's a lot of hungry and thirsty customers ready to come in. Anything else you'd like to add before we get out of here?
No, I just hope that people take the time to come in and see what we're doing here and try some great beer. Say hello if you see me.
Perfect. Stay tuned for more Beer Geeks right after this. Each week, the Beer Geeks and I feature a year-round beer we think you should try in our Pint of the Week. This week, we're highlighting Sierra Nevada Brewing Company out of Chico, California, the second best-selling craft brewery in America, where they're brewing up unique beers like this, the Torpedo Extra IPA. Beer tasting expert and beer festival organizer, Mark Updahl. We're here to taste the Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA. So, Mark, explain the Torpedo IPA.
Well, it's a new beer for Sierra Nevada. They've been around over 30 years, but this is a new beer in the last 3 years. They run the beer through a torpedo system, which is their own system they developed for their Celebration Ale. It's their winter beer. I'm sure everybody's had it. It's amazing.
Wet hop, yeah.
Yep. It's just a way for like fresh hopping or dry hopping a beer. Basically, you can extract a lot of extra resiny oils out of it. That's just going to allow for a couple different aromatic flavors, as well as you might taste a little bit in the layers deeper in the beer.
That's a great insight, because not only is it a cool name, but it also means something as well. It also refers to the way the beer is made. A lot of beers just have, they come up with a clever name to just say, what the heck? But the nomenclature is very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up.
Absolutely. It gives it a little bit of history.
Cheers to this. What are you getting out of it?
It's nice and bitter right up front. And that's what you're going to get when you run it through a torpedo system. Getting that extra dry hop, it's bitter. It gives it that extra bitterness.
The 3 ingredients in this beer: hop, hops, and hops. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. Being an extremely hopped beer, do you find this beer to be kind of like a novelty to just pushing the envelope as far as the hops go?
Again, they've been around, like I said, 30 plus years. They're the ones who developed the torpedo system. They were just putting their stamp of approval on this trend, I think.
And what's neat about this is, like you were talking about, the technology. That they came up with some system, they moved the beer technology forward, and you're finding that out in the beer itself.
Absolutely. Sierra Nevada has been leading the way for a long time. People have been copying them, or, not even necessarily copying, just trying their best to
keep up.
Or make a product that, is as good as them.
Absolutely. So here it is, the Beer Geeks Pint of the Week, the extra hoppy, but extra good Torpedo Extra IPA. Thanks, Mark.
Cheers.
The Beer Geeks and I have arrived on the Seven Corners block of Minneapolis, right next to the University of Minnesota campus. Now this is the neighborhood bar. Now it's not just some corner pub, this is a national award-winning spot here at Town Hall Brewery.
It's the best microbrewery here in Minnesota.
Consistently changing styles and tastes of beer is really quite impressive.
You get a little bit of everybody in here.
They know that coming here they're going to get something that's new and always done well, and it's going to come with good food.
This is one of my favorite, kind of a mid-range kind of beer, which is what I like. It turned out to be a good recommendation by the staff.
When you come in, you are going to get world-class beer.
Town Hall is a place that you want to hang out because it's comfortable, it's relaxed, and the beer is amazing.
The customers provide us the opportunity to make unique beers that other places can't, because we can sell it. They trust Mike, they trust our brewing staff, and we can make something unique.
Craft beer creations that have won Town Hall Brewery numerous awards, due in large part to head brewer Mike Hoops. Take us through the process.
So the first thing we'll do, we come in, the brew house is full of hot water. We'll start to sanitize all the pipings, and then we'll mash in. There's a kind of a green crazy thing. That's an auger. Grain will come up the chute, drop into the mash tun, get mixed up by hand. We got our trusty paddle.
Yeah, everybody's got a different paddle. That's the one thing I've noticed, that when you go to different breweries, I always want to check out their paddle.
So yeah, wood's pretty important. We have snap paddles, and you know, a beer name like Broken Paddle, it comes from that very thing. So here we were. Fortunately, we had a backup that day.
The true creative process takes place in the basement of this historic building. Okay, now Mike, for a 100-year-old building, I figured the basement would be a little more dungeness than this. But tell us a little bit. Let's get in here and kind of get our hands dirty. Tell us a little bit about what we have here.
These beers down here are aging, they're carbonating, and some are serving out of these tanks. But generally speaking, you can see kegs everywhere.
Yeah.
Today it's keg delivery day, so we have all these kegs we have to fill out of our tanks, and we deliver it to our store down the street. It works out just fabulous.
And that freshness is unbeatable.
You can't match it.
Yeah.
Jeff, I found some glassware.
Magically, they just appeared.
There's one for you.
Thank you.
Let's head back into the tiny little cellar.
Absolutely, let's go. Yeah.
I love the bourbon barrel aged stuff, and it's really nice.
It's a very good treat.
All right, Mike, tell us about what kind of barrels we're using.
Bourbon barrels from all over the place. We went down and hand chose these things from Kentucky last year. It was fantastic. We learned about the process, how they're making their whiskeys, and how they treat their wood, and we learned how we can treat our beer accordingly.
Bourbon barrel aging is a really unique process. Tell us how you guys do it.
One of the particular distilleries, we had an old gentleman that had been with the distillery probably 50 years. Taught us about, okay, this barrel tastes great because of that. Where we learned enough about the barrel and the product that comes from it.
That is like a real beer geek vacation right there.
Yeah, and what am I but a beer geek? Should we try one of them?
Yeah, you don't have to help.
Let's pull that plug. Give it a shot. So directly, the tasting out of the barrel.
You ready?
Plug her. Oh yeah, I gotta get some. Are you
get ready.
This is a very special wheat-based bourbon. 20-year aging. Let's give it a shot.
Cheers. Wow, that is that is really like drinking bourbon. It's not too carbonated yet.
It's amazing. This is young. This is just a young pup. Next year, this is going to be beautiful. You can taste the oak. You can taste some of the toffees and the caramels forming. It's something that we're very, very, very happy and lucky to be able to be serving.
God, that bourbon really pulls it together very nicely.
Yeah, it's enjoyable stuff.
What inspires you to go out, to drive all the way to Kentucky to bring those barrels back?
The quest for better, richer product. It's our responsibility to give the people what they want. So we give them the finest whiskeys, the finest bourbons, rums, as well as giving them the finest beer that we can.
So Mike, what's kept you here for 12 years?
It's all about the beer. To have an owner that has given me creative freedom since day one. I mean, the customer base here is fabulous. It's turned into a little family. Established a Pint Club membership, nearly 1,000 members strong.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for showing me around the Town Hall Brewery and the basement here. And
my pleasure.
Cracking the bourbon aged barrels for us.
Yeah, next year we'll give you some more.
I'll be here, and I expect to be on that Pint Club.
Well, I know somebody. I'll see what I can do.
Thank you so much.
I'm drinking the Town Hall's Buffalo Bock. Amazing. It starts out really sweet, and then you get this little bit of a whiskey aged, kind of a alcoholic bite to it, and this really clean, smooth finish. And it hits all those kind of key points for me, at least, with a good tasting beer.
And tasting is just what the beer geeks will do when we come back. Well, this is pretty much Beer Geek Nirvana. I'm here with Beer Geek Tim, Beer Geek Mark. We're in the lounge at the Town Hall Brewery, trying some beers today, doing a little taste testing of some of their offerings, some of their award-winning beers that they have. What do they got, Mark?
Well, the first one we're going to try is going to be the Hope and King Scotch Ale. They won gold medal at Great American Beer Fest this year, which anyone who knows anything about craft beer knows that the Great American Beer Fest is the biggest beer fest in the country, and to win an award there is a pretty big accomplishment, and it'll definitely put your brewery right on the map.
Dan, what are we looking for when we pick up the color?
We're definitely going to look for that rich mahogany Scotch ale coloring and an opaque, not quite opaque stout
color, but definitely a big mahogany, rich caramel-like color.
Pretty translucent for an ale.
Absolutely.
Yeah, clarity is very good on this beer.
Well, I'm not picking up a lot of hops.
Definitely mild on the hop presence. Yeah. It's going to be a malt-forward beer. You're going to get some of that kind of smoky peatiness, we call it, from the Scotch malt.
For sure.
Yep, definitely. But there's definitely, you know, some bitterness at the end there. Finishes dry.
Yeah,
it's a nice balance.
Yeah, little dry finish. It's a balance at the end that just makes it a really easy beer to drink. And you can go from this to a lot of other beers on their menu, but this is a great place to start.
Now, what makes this a gold medal winning beer?
Well, I think when you look at it, you know, immediately, like you mentioned, the clarity. You know, it's translucent. You can see right through it. That's a quality in a beer that, for this style, is definitely very important. It's also really balanced. You know, you get some of that sweetness, you get some of that, you know, the peatiness definitely, but they balance each other so nicely that it makes it a really palatable beer and allows you to have more than one if you really want.
Yeah.
It's definitely a sessionable brew. On the alcohol volume, I would not recommend too many of these, but it's a very tasty brew to sit down at the town hall on a Saturday afternoon and have a few.
You could also pair it with something just as simple as a hamburger.
Yeah, and not having a lot of hops is really going to go well with food because it won't be so overpowering.
Absolutely.
All right, so now we're headed into the cask.
So this is the cask IPA. This is a pretty normal offering on the casks, but the wonderful thing about the casks here at Town Hall is that some days you'll come in and the IPA will be on, another day you'll come in and you'll have 2 beers you've never tried before.
What's great about having the cask here is the freshness. You don't have to get the beer from, you know, all over the country to get shipped in. It's literally made right in back. I really like the color on this IPA.
Some you'll find are going to be a little bit darker depending on what malts they use, and some are going to be a little bit lighter.
You're not getting anything that's going to make it darker or lighter most of the time, but it's just going to give it a caramel heat. And it's going to give it a tint, but what's more significant about the specialty malts is it's going to give it a lot of different flavors. You're getting more characteristics from those specialty malts, whereas, you know, the lighter IPAs or lighter pale ales are just going to be kind of a straight base malt that's very light, like a Pilsner.
That's really bright.
Yeah, you know,
really
you definitely get some definitely fruit flavors, a lot of citrus. There's definitely almost some riney characters in there, a little bit of resininess in there too.
Maybe a little bit of orange rind, sweet orange rind in there towards the finish. The thing I love about cask ales is a lot of times these beers aren't, they're self-carbonated. So they recondition in the cask and they create their own carbonation. They pump the beer out of the cask at the tap. It's not coming pushed out from CO2. So you get a little bit more flavor from what the beer actually is versus that CO2 flavor that comes from the
so it's not
CO2
hiding
lines.
behind.
That's right.
But guys, you can really taste why Town Hall has won so many awards, 13 or something like that. The banners in the back and the medals up front. It was great, very informative, always delicious. We'll be back with more Beer Geeks right after this. That's it for this episode of Beer Geeks. Tune in next week for more craft insights, amazing food, brewery tours, and of course, beer. Shh. Listen. Smell something?